Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Martin Tyner, and I am the founder of the Southwest Wildlife Foundation. That's our wildlife rescue organization here in southern Utah. And we've got a really amazing day planned, and it's special for me. This is December 21st. This is the winter solstice. In our calendar, they believe it's the first day of winter, but that's not true. We've had winter here for a month and a half, 2 months now. So, you know, as you can see around my yard here, we have a little bit of snow, and it's certainly been sub-freezing, and I think we even had one day of sub-zero months ago. So the cold weather has arrived, and but the winter solstice is special to me, and as we go along, I'll try to explain why it's so special. And part of, hey, pretty Belle, I know, we'll go play in a little while. And part of one of the reasons that it's such a special day to me personally is I get to do one of my favorite things in the world, and that is that I get to release a beautiful red-tailed hawk back to the wild. Now, this particular red-tailed hawk came in horrible condition. It was lifeless, showing all the signs of poisoning, and we were able to save its life. Hey, beautiful hawk. It's a nice little male, and so we're going to grab our little friend right here and get him back to the wild. Isn't he a beautiful thing? We love these guys. And so he is ready and raring to go back to the wild where he belongs. He just had a really big breakfast that I got up at, I get up at sunrise every day, and I've got him all fed. And so he is nice, big meal, and ready to go back to the wild. And so part of my personal winter solstice festivities is I get to release a red-tailed hawk, and that's always one of the most special things in the world to me personally. So are you ready, my little friend? Now, please understand, he's wild, and I haven't tamed him in any way, so I have to use this net to grab him very quickly, just like that. And I need to take control of his feet. That's really, really important, is get those feet controlled. And once I get his feet, then I can get him out of the net here. As you can see, say hi to everybody. There's my little guy. Now this is an adult male, and we know it's an adult because look, guys, he has his red tail. Oh, hold on, sweetie. Come on, we got you. And I don't know if you can see it really well, but this is his beautiful, beautiful red tail that he has, and that's where he gets the name red tail. They don't get the red tail till they're 2 years old, and they get the completed red tail at that point in time. So he's more than 2 years old, and so he would be considered a good candidate for a breeder for this coming spring. Okay, this is stress protection. You can see his hood right here. This is his stress protection. When we transport him in the car or a lot of activity and movement, they get terrified. You put the hood over their eyes, they can't see, and that helps to keep them calm. And you can see right here, this is the crop. This is his big breakfast that he had this morning, and so that's enough food that'll last him for a good couple of days. Plus, he's been eating huge meals for the last couple of months, so he's nice and fat, and certainly ready to go back to the wild, my pretty guy. Yeah, the hood doesn't fit you perfectly, but that's okay. It's just to get you out to the field. So that's going to be the first part of my festivities today, as I get to release this beautiful male red-tailed hawk. This has not been planned as a public event. Oh, just to let you guys look real quick while we're here. Okay, here's our bald eagle. This is the bald eagle that came in with its feathers horribly damaged at the nest site, and he will be with us for a year, maybe two. He's going to be with us a long time, but he's doing quite well and eating really well, and we're happy about that. And then our second red-tailed hawk that we have in rescue right now is over here. Let me show him to you real quickly, or her. It's a female. Yeah, hi, sweetheart. There's my pretty girl. And hi, sweetie. Can I poke around without you getting too upset? Let me poke around. There we go. And you can see our pretty little girl right here. And she is the one that had her tail feathers ripped out. And so she's, you can see she can't steer very well because of the lack of tail feathers. And so she's going to be with us for, you know, probably close to a year as well. But she is eating good and she's doing just fine. And so we're very, very pleased with her progress. Yes, you're such a pretty girl. So for all of you that wondered about the bald eagle and the red-tailed hawk that are in rescue right now, they're doing wonderfully. And yes, Belle, I know. Belle, this is Belle's time of year where she loves to go hunting. And hi, Scout, yeah, you like to go too. And so they like to go hunting, and they coax and coax and coax to get their time to go play. But right now, it is our red-tailed hawk's turn to go play. So, what a pretty little boy you are. So let's get him going. And so, as you can see out, the mountains are covered with snow. We've got snow patches around the valley here. Such a beautiful, beautiful time of year, even though it's cold and can be quite stormy. But the really wonderful thing is the winter solstice doesn't represent the beginning of winter as our calendar states to me. The winter solstice represents a renewal. It's the shortest day of the year. From now on, every day will be longer and more daylight, and spring is coming, and so it's a renewal day for me. You work really, really hard through the entire year, and you get into fall and the days are getting shorter and it's getting a little gloomier and stormier weathers, and you start getting a little bit depressed, and then December 21st, the shortest day of the year, is kind of the turning point when everything gets better and everything gets brighter. So very, very hopeful that the 2020 is going to be a great year, and hopefully it'll be a better year for my little red-tailed hawk friend here. So let's go ahead and get him in the box for transport. There you go. And we'll get going, guys. I really do hope that that you'll stick with me, because I've got a lot that I want to show you today. It's very nice weather for late December, and I've got several surprises for you, and I hope that you'll hang out with us so I can show you why this day is so special for me. Okay, well, here we go. Well, welcome back, everyone. We're now in the car and we're heading to one of my favorite places in southern Utah. It's a place that I go to sometimes several times a week, depending on what my schedule is. It's a place where I fly my hawks, falcons, and eagles. It is a place that is sacred to the native peoples. The place is called the Parowan Gap. But right now I thought I'd give you kind of a little view of where I live. And so this is actually coming off my street, and we're going to get onto the road called Highway 130, or commonly called by the locals the Minersville Highway. And the Parowan Gap, this really amazing historical place loaded with native petroglyphs and wildlife habitat areas, is only 15 miles from my house. Not only is the place that I'm taking you, which is the Parowan Gap, considered sacred, but all of this land is the land where their forefathers lived and have been buried, and they have written down much of their culture on the rocks here. And so we'd like to always treat this place with reverence, even though we're out here doing photography and letting the eagle hunt, the hawk hunt, and thoroughly recreating, enjoying the area. And there are people who come through with ATVs and motorcycles. We should always come through a place like this and enjoy our recreation, but with a degree of reverence and respect for the location. Not just because it's environmentally sensitive and extremely important, but also because of its culture and history that we have here. And over on this side, oh, we've got some bald eagles up in the trees. And I'm sorry, the GoPro that I'm running right now won't pick these up very well. You'll only see a black spot up in the trees. And right now I see 2 bald eagles up in the trees. I'm going to pull over for just a second so we can take a peek. Now we have a large number of bald eagles in this area. They come down for the winter time. They don't live here year round. And so let's go ahead and pull this over and take a quick peek so we can talk about the Rush Lake Ranch area and why it's, again, so important to us. And let me grab the camera. Okay. Two bald eagles currently that I see here. And I want you to look at this, folks. You see this black rock wall, and the black rock wall subdivides this huge field. This is all laid by hand, of course. And there was a family of pioneers that settled this ground, and the family was called the Rush family. Again, this is why it's known as Rush Lake Ranch. And this was not only a homestead, and we've got the buildings over here that you can look at. It's not only a homestead and a farm, but out past these trees, this was a huge wetland. And this was an area we had fish, and we had a lot of waterfowl, and it was absolutely beautiful. And unfortunately, the water from the Rush Lake Ranch was diverted over in Parowan, which is the next valley over, when the pioneers settled here, and they diverted the water for agricultural purposes in the Parowan Valley, and this whole area dried up. And so it's back to its original high desert. The wetlands no longer exist. The waterfowl no longer come through, and that's very sad. Okay, I actually see 3 bald eagles. I see 1 bald eagle in the tree, the furthest to the left. And then right in front of me, I see 2 more bald eagles. And what we're looking at here, as far as the bald eagles go, I see 1 full adult with a white head and white tail, and I see a juvenile bald eagle, which is solid brown and looks a lot like a golden eagle. Now, I have come out here on occasions, and I have actually counted in these trees alone 46 bald eagles in one sitting. And so we can get a lot of bald eagles out in this area. And again, what they're feeding on is mostly roadkill in the area, because the water is gone, so there's no wetlands for them to fish. But they'll eat a lot of, the bald eagles are primarily a fish hunter and a scavenger, where the golden eagle is a hunter scavenger. And bald eagles like to hunt jackrabbits. Bald eagles can hunt jackrabbits. They prefer to find dead ones. And so along this highway, we get a lot of dead rabbits. And so, again, when I got here 40 plus years ago, the pile of lumber that you see next to it looks like an old barn. That was actually a big wooden barn, and that has completely collapsed over the years. And much of the building itself has collapsed, and it's actually hazardous to go into. It's structurally unstable. You know, it's sad, because this area is so deep in Utah history. This was actually a stagecoach stop coming from Milford and Minersville, and Milford and Minersville is another 30, or Minersville is 30 miles up the highway here. And so this would be the stop when they would trade horses, and they'd let the horses into these corrals, these black rock stone corrals, and trade out new horses to go the 14-15 miles to Cedar City. So this was a stage stop as well. So tremendous history here. You know, this is really, really interesting habitat. I've had the privilege of walking all of this. Right across the road here, where you can see my car, just right across the road, there's a little gully right there, and that gully has got a lot of Indian petroglyphs in there. It had a couple of burial sites. Unfortunately, they've been grave robbed because people found out about it, and they're so convenient, close to the road. They've been cleaned out. There was a lot of pottery. There was a lot of relics from the native people, and it's very sad that they have been vandalized and taken. But the petroglyphs are still here. So beautiful place on the ridge right here. Again, this is the area that I would fly my golden eagle. He would like to soar these ridges, and out through the desert and the valley here, we would flush rabbits. On the ridge right across, there's a small set of cliffs, and that small set of cliffs had one of my golden eagle's nests for many years. Too much disturbance, the eagles went elsewhere, but that was for 20 years. That was a golden eagle nesting site that I monitored, and would sit out here with my long spotting scope and watch the parents and just enjoy having the animals in the area. And the Parowan Gap, we're kind of looking toward the Parowan Gap right now, and it's a gap in that ridge of cliffs, and we'll go to that in just a few minutes. Along this set of power lines to our left, I see virtually daily golden eagles, red-tailed hawks, ferruginous hawks, prairie falcons, peregrine falcons. They like these set of power poles to hunt, you know, mostly, you know, small mammals and some birds off the power lines. And actually, this set of power lines I'm very, very proud of. I know you won't be able to see through the video, but on these power lines, where the power line, like the one that we're just coming up to right now, where they have two wires on one side and one on the right side, you'll see on the left side where the two wires are close together, they put up insulation. And when I first came here, I was averaging a dozen eagles electrocuted on this line alone. I mean, eagles are getting electrocuted just all over the place here in southern Utah. And I worked extensively with, at the time it was Utah Power, now it's Rocky Mountain Power, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the State Fish and Game, to get them to insulate the power lines where the two wires are close together, because that's what it takes. When a bird lands on a power line, if it touches one wire, it's perfectly safe, but if it touches two wires, it's dead. And so with the two wires close together, the bird's wings can touch the two wires, and the bird is electrocuted. And so to put the insulation on the center wire, it actually has saved hundreds, if not thousands, of eagles, hawks, and falcons from being electrocuted on that particular line. And then I've also helped the power company identify other critical raptor habitats and help them with making these power lines raptor safe. So that's actually one of the things I'm very, very proud of, is to be able to work with different government entities and different companies to have a really positive outcome. So I'm quite happy about that. And here we are. This is the turn to the Parowan Gap. Now, again, when I got here over 40 years ago, This was nothing but a 2-track livestock trail. This was not a road. And the livestock trail went right through the middle of the gap. And it was wonderful because nobody ever came out here. The petroglyphs were well protected because very few people even knew about them. But as they improved the road and eventually paved the road, and they started to publicize the Indian petroglyphs that we have here, you kind of go from you don't tell anybody because you want to keep them safe to you tell everybody in order to keep them safe, because the more people now that know about the petroglyphs that we have here, the more eyes there are to watch over them, and people start to understand that they are sacred and that they are to be respected and not to be damaged. And so there's a fine line between protecting things and not allowing the public to know about it, and protecting things to let the public know all about it. There's a balancing act that you have to do there. And so we've kind of crossed that balancing point. And now we love to tell everybody about the Parowan Gap and the petroglyphs and the meanings behind them, and how sacred the ground is, and to educate people about the native peoples and their culture. It's a tremendous classroom and a tremendous teaching tool is the Parowan Gap. And so if you ever get a chance to come to southern Utah, you know, it's only 15 miles from Cedar City. Come out here. We've got a nice parking area and a little pavilion. No services, but we do have a little restroom out here. But this is run by the Bureau of Land Management, and so we encourage people to come and learn a little bit about the desert Southwest and the native people that made this home long before you and I got here. I think you're now starting to get a nicer view of the structure of the gap, why we call it the Parowan Gap. It really is a unique place, and again, it's really truly a sacred place, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get through here. And now this paved road goes all the way to the town of Parowan, and all the way to I-15, to the freeway, where you can literally go anywhere. So it's very, very accessible for everyone. So it's a neat place to just kind of drop by for a little while and learn a little bit about the Indian culture, the Native American culture. Okay. We have arrived. How about that? We are now at the Parowan Gap, and I'm going to give you guys a little tour in just a minute. Okay. Well, let's start off real quickly here with the reason that we've come out here in the first place. And that's my favorite part of the whole day. Look at that beautiful red-tailed hawk. Look at that beautiful tail. Beautiful little male, just as cute as can be. And we love him to death. And we got him. Hi, kiddo. We got you. Okay, my little friend. Okay, I want everybody to get a good look at you, how beautiful you are. And the nice thing is that this little spot right here is just, you can see through the gap on the far side. That's where he came from. That's the farm. Just on the other side of the gap is where he was found dying, lifeless, and showing signs of poisoning. So we're very close to where he was from. And my sweet little friend, are you ready? Go on. Here we go. Yeah, that's my boy. Isn't he beautiful? He just pooped. Ruffled his feathers. That's a sign of going, oh, I'm free. He's very happy. He pooped, which is the term is called muted. Now he's looking around to see, oh my goodness sakes, what happened and where am I? And it really does my heart good to see him back in the wild. Like I said, a couple of months ago, I was quite certain he wouldn't survive the night. But he did. And it's amazing how many times I say that same statement, I don't think he'll survive. And then all of a sudden, with a lot of intensive care, they start to come around. And I've got some ravens going overhead. Ravens like to pick on the red-tailed hawk. But currently they're not showing aggression, so that's good. Well, my little friend, I'm going to leave you. Yes. He is so beautiful. Oh, wonderful. Another big rouse. Now, rouse is where he ruffles up his feathers really big, and that allows the feathers to lay back down nice and smooth and in perfect order. And it's kind of like, it's almost a celebration of freedom for him. And so he knows that he's free. What a good boy. And the great thing is, with a big crop full of food, there he goes. There my little boy goes. He's flying beautifully. Yep. Up to the next little rise. How wonderful. I'm sure it's hard for most people to understand, but this is the reason I exist, the reason that I'm here. This valley, I have golden eagles nesting, red-tailed hawks like the one you just saw, peregrine falcons, prairie falcons, horned owls, long and short-eared owls. We have a lot of those kinds of things. Back in the foothills here, I've got a cougar that a few years ago I accidentally ran across her den where she had a little cub. I have seen just tons of antelope and mule deer out here. This is an amazing place. But this is a place that you have to really understand it in order to be able to have those kinds of wildlife experiences. This is not a place where you're going to photograph herds of deer and elk from your car. You have to get out and walk. And so I have walked every inch. This is how I've spent my leisure time, as I come out to a place like this, and I wander for miles. And so I have come across, like I said, a lot of Native American sacred burial sites that we've told no one about. And I've come across other archaeological sites and nesting sites for a wide variety of different kinds of birds and denning up for animals. And it's really been a blessing to be here. Okay, let's introduce you to the Parowan Gap real quickly here. I'm going to take you over and show you a little bit about the petroglyphs that we have here in the Parowan Gap. That is truly, truly amazing and wonderful. I hope you can see this okay. I'm not sure how this is showing up. In fact, I'm going to pull it down off my head, and let's do this. Okay. This is the Parowan Gap Petroglyphs. This particular group of petroglyphs, this is the sun calendar. And the sun calendar basically allowed the ancient people that lived here to understand what day it was. And please understand, I'm certainly not an archaeologist, though I have worked with and visited with the archaeologists out here because I'm out here with the animals. And it is my understanding that what looks like a giant zipper, and we can come over here and I can see if I can point it out to you on this picture. Here we go. What looks like a giant zipper right here. This is a drawing of the petroglyphs on the wall. This is the left line of the zipper coming down is the mountain to my left. And the right side of the zipper coming down is the mountain that's directly in front of us. The circle at the bottom here is this valley that is behind us. And then there's this is actually a walking path that's back over to this side that goes up that ridge. And so this is topographical, if that makes any sense to everybody. It's a description of what the petroglyphs are saying. Now, the way the petroglyphs works is there are stacks of rocks posted out around the valley here. And on the appropriate day of the year, you stand on a stack of rocks. So there's a stack of rocks. Today is the winter solstice. So there's a stack of rocks over here for the winter solstice. There are a stack of rocks for the spring and fall equinoxes. There's a stack of rocks for the summer solstice. And you stand on, depending on the time of year, the right stack of rocks, and you watch the sun set through the gap. And as you watch the sun set through the gap, where the sun touches the mountainside, either to the right or to the left, you come back to the petroglyph and you count the notches, since that represents the mountainside to the left and this is the mountainside to the right. You count the notches and that tells you what day it is. And then everything else is the mathematical calculations for things they wanted to remember. A good example of that is right here. This is a stalk of corn, and that's right up there on the petroglyph. This is a stalk of corn, and that stalk of corn is sitting on a small sun, and where the sun touches the zipper glyph to the left, that when the sun hits that mark, that's the correct day to plant corn. Now, people ask me, is that true? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. The truth of the matter is, these petroglyphs were written, the most recent ones were like 500 years ago, and the oldest ones are 4,000 years old. And so do we know what these say? Well, the only thing an archaeologist can do is they can come here during the right day, at the right time, watch the sunrise, watch the sunsets, look at the petroglyphs, see if they can identify what the lights, the shadows, the movements, whatever it is, that would point to that being a correct assumption. And of course today, we've got heavy cloud cover and there are no shadows, so the petroglyphs aren't going to function and tell us anything about the winter solstice today because there are no shadows. And all of these things function on sunrise and sunsets, moonrise, moonsets, lights and shadows, and so they all represent very unique things. Do we know what the petroglyphs stand for? Some of them, the archaeologists got a pretty good idea, but there's a lot of them that we still have no idea what they mean. Now let's walk around the corner here to my very favorite petroglyph, because I have a little credit in this one. Now, I don't know if you can see very well, but you can see where the rock wall comes down and there's a gap. And then there's a big stone out in front. So there's a gap between the wall and the big rock in front. That gap is really, really important. And it narrows down to a very, very tiny, tiny gap. And that very, very tiny gap is actually a lunar observatory. And so we'll come back over here to my favorite petroglyph in the whole wide world, and that's this one right here. And you look at this wall, and if you look very carefully, what you'll see is a big fan-shaped object. And sitting on top of the fan-shaped object with its lines and dots, you will see a very, very finely carved great horned owl. You can see its right wing coming down. You can see its body. You can see its head. You can see its beak. You can see the feathers on top of the head. And the owl is actually watching the sunset to the west. And we've got a little picture of it right here so we can hone in on it a little bit better for you. Here's the drawing. Okay, here's the head, the beak, the feathers on top. This is the body. Here is the right wing. And though it doesn't show it very well here, actually, if you look at the original petroglyphs, owls have short tail feathers and has the tail feathers blended into these bars right here. Now, when I came up here one day many years ago, and the archaeologists were working here at the Parowan Gap trying to identify what the petroglyphs were and what they meant, I asked the archaeologists here, so tell me about the great horned owl in the Parowan Gap. And they says, show us. So I walked them over, and the fence, the guardrail wasn't here. We had to put that up because of vandalism, but the fence wasn't here. And so I walked right up, and I showed them the great horned owl, and was able to point out all of its features. And the archaeologists, their jaws just hit the ground. They had no idea what that was. And then they asked me, because it makes perfect sense, it's an owl. And they asked me, do I know what the fan-shaped object is? And I says, no, I have no idea. And he says, well, they believe it is the mathematical calculations for the movement of the moon. And the sun returns to the same place in the sky every 365 days. The moon, I believe, takes 18 months, or 18 years, 6 months, to return as a full moon to the exact same spot in the sky. And that is, and how they determine this, I have no idea, but that is supposedly the mathematical calculations for that. And right next to the fan-shaped object, there's another, looks more like a comb with a bunch of dots above it. And they says that's the same mathematical formula, just written in a different way. And what you do is you walk up to the wall, you turn right, and you look through the crack in the rock, and the crack in the rock focuses on the little point on the hillside on the far end of the valley, and the moon will rise full there every 18 years, 6 months. And so the sun calendar was to tell them what day it is, and the lunar or moon calendar was able to tell them what year it was. So these were incredibly intelligent people, smarter than I am, and this whole area is just petroglyphs everywhere. You just can't look any direction and not see petroglyphs. Just, I mean, right here, you can see the petroglyphs right there behind the grass. And this is just loaded up with petroglyphs. And again, petroglyphs was not graffiti. Petroglyphs was writings. And let's see if I can, oh, it's too bad. It's a little bit too late, but I'll not only was this petroglyphs, but I was told a story by the native people that they believe that the God that made this planet, that made Earth, his name was Tobat. And Tobat made the Earth. And the story goes that when Tobat made the Earth, the God of fire came to Tobat and told Tobat, your planet is beautiful, but it's cold. And he would like to bring warmth to the planet. And Tobat thought that was a good idea. And so Tobat gave the God of fire permission to come to his creation, his planet, his earth. And in the process of doing that, the God of fire came to the earth as a mountain of fiery rock, striking the earth's crust, fracturing the earth. Volcanoes erupted, nuclear winter, and all life on the planet was destroyed. You know, that sounds pretty familiar to me. Like about 65 million years ago, an asteroid the size of a mountain hit off the Yucatan Peninsula, the Gulf of, down in very southern Mexico area, in Chile, South America, or Central America. And in the process of doing so, that's accredited for the loss of the dinosaurs. Well, it's interesting that the native people have the same story with none of the geological evidence. Well, in the process of doing that, Tobit got very upset with the god of fire for destroying his creation. And he imprisoned the god of fire in the bowels of the earth, where the god of fire basically lives till this day. And the god of fire, every time there's an earthquake or every time there's a volcano erupting, it is the god of fire attempting to escape. That's the story. That's the legend that the ancient people told. Well, Tobit actually lives here. This is his home, according to the native people. And if you will kind of bear with me a little bit and use your imagination just a little bit here, what you will see is right in about the center of the frame to the right side of the gap, you'll see a very small kind of a vertical cliff. And if you look up the vertical cliff, we'll kind of move a little bit closer here. As you look up the vertical cliff, what you will see is a horizontal slit in the vertical cliff. And if you kind of use your imagination a little bit, you'll think of that vertical slit as a mouth. And now that you can see the mouth, now you can see the chin, and now you can see the nose. Now you can see where the eye would be and the eyebrow. And you can see the light-colored rock at the back of the head, the back of the face. That light-colored rock is an eagle feather. This is a naturally occurring stone sculpture of Tobit. And to the ancient people, they believed that that was God himself living right here in the Parowan Gap. And one of the most amazing things about Tobit is if you come here the right time of year. Now, this is the winter solstice. And in our calendar, we believe this is the first day of winter. Well, to the ancients, they know better than we did. They know that cold weather comes much sooner than the 21st of December. In fact, the truth of the matter is we usually get our first snow about the first week of November. And we can't have snow as early as September, but usually the first week of November is when we get our really cold weather. And so basically they put out a stack of rocks. This, where the road is now, this was a stream area. And in the stream, they had a stack of rocks. And just like on the opposite side of the valley where they have the stack of rocks marking the summer solstice and the winter solstice and the spring and fall equinoxes and all of that, well, they had a stack of rocks here. And the stack of rocks was for Tobit. And if you come here the first week of November and you kind of move around a little bit and stand in just the right spot, you can watch the sunrise. And the sunrise will go into Tobit's mouth and he will swallow the sun for the beginning of winter. Let that airplane pass by. And so even to this day, Tobit is still telling us that winter is coming and we had best be prepared. And so, again, what an amazing place, a beautiful place, a historic place. And not only is this part of our native culture for thousands of years, but this is part of our Western culture. This is part of what we call the Old Spanish Trail. And the Old Spanish Trail was a trading route that went from Santa Fe, New Mexico to San Francisco. And they would actually come right through the gap here. And there again, not everybody survived the trip. And so in the process of coming through here, we actually have a grave marker. Now, I don't know if the people are still buried here or not, but we do have a grave marker right here. And we believe it was a couple of Spaniards who would migrate through here And this is our grave marker. It is 1835. Now this is about 20 years before the it's marked at 1835, and this is about 20 years before the Mormon pioneers came through the area. And there's a skull and crossbones, Spanish cross, DGFB are the two people that are buried here. And if you look right down there, you can see a bunch of rocks that we believe actually covered the grave itself. And so the grave was right here. Now, whether it's still here is here or not, I have no clue. But so we have a lot of other history here besides just the native peoples as well. And I'm going to try to do something a little bit different. Right up there, I have one of my golden eagle's nests, and I have a peregrine falcon's or a prairie falcon's nest up in here. And at the far end, I've got peregrine falcons, and I've got, like I said, a lot of other hawks and owls and those kinds of things. Up on the wall above here, I doubt you can see it, but we do have some great horned owl's nesting site, the same owl that's represented in the petroglyph. We have an great horned owl's nesting site right up there, and I am going to try to fly a very small drone and see if I can get some aerial pictures of the gap for all of you, and see how that comes out. I have taken, a drone was donated to our organization. We're very grateful for it. We've used it for videoing the nature park, but I thought we would try to video a little bit of the Parowan Gap. And please understand, this is really important to understand. This is wintertime. Nobody is nesting in here. There's going to be no disturbance to the wildlife in any way. You know, I really get very sensitive about people flying drones in areas where they could cause a lot of problems for the native wildlife. And so, you know, right now that eagle's nest, the eagles won't come back until late January. But let me show you a little closer look at these petroglyphs. And you can see how beautiful they are. And again, just all of these, you can see it, just lots and lots of bars. This is all mathematics. This is all counting. And so they are able to determine very, very special things, numbers that they needed to remember, whether it was days, weeks, months. And again, a lot of it, we know what it means. A lot of it, we don't know what they mean. And we just haven't been here, or erosion may have taken out whatever caused the lights and shadows to reflect what they need to do. And so you can see how, you know, tremendously intricate, interesting. And then we have this. And then we have this. And then we have this. And this is why we've had to protect the petroglyphs, because people have come through here and they've defaced it, and they have written things very horrifying, that they are so disrespectful to what this all means. And that this was not identifying, you know, you got a girlfriend. This was identifying, oh, I had a little rock slide. This is information. This is text. This is a collection of knowledge. And so this is something that needs to be protected and respected. And we have petroglyphs that go all the way up the walls. So we have so much of this here. Anyway, that's the Parowan Gap, and you got to meet Tobat. It's a beautiful place. Would highly encourage all of you. And like I said, I'm going to go and get my little drone and see if I can just get you kind of a, obviously we can't get really close, but I can get you just kind of an overall view of the Parowan Gap and its structures and a little bit of an aerial view of what the gap is. And so we'll try to do some of that for you as well on this particular day. Our red-tailed hawk is gone. I am so thrilled. What a beautiful little hawk. And I hope that some of this interests all of you, and that you do take the time to not only come here, but take the time to visit places like this. They're certainly all over the world. We have these amazing archaeological sites, and take the time to understand, you know, the ancient cultures and try to understand how intelligent they were, and without computers and without cell phones and without the technology that's available to us now. They were pretty incredible as to what they were able to do and to understand. One more little spot I want to peek at right here with you guys. Look at this. This is the house that their spiritual leader, the medicine man, the shaman, lived in. This was his home. Isn't that awesome? This is the place he lived. And you can see some black on the walls. That's the soot from his fires. And unfortunately, again, grave robbed. When I first came here, this cave was completely filled with dirt, and it's been excavated, and people stole whatever was in here. And then the University of Utah, I believe, came in and took what little was left to try to save. But what a horrifying thing. You know, people who come in here, and again, graffiti issues. This is why we have the fence up, trying to protect this place. But this was the house that the shaman lived in. And this was actually truly an amazing house. If you can only imagine, in the wintertime, it's much warmer in here than it is outside. In the summertime, it's much cooler. And then you have a beautiful stream right here that flowed where the road is, a beautiful stream that went by, and with fish and turtles and desert bighorns and antelope and deer. And so this was really a great spot. And you know, we unfortunately did not protect this as quickly as we should have. And there's been a lot of damage done. But there's still an awful lot here that we can learn, and an awful lot that we can share. So I hope you have enjoyed my little tour of the Parowan Gap with you guys.